Welcome to Week 13 edition of Band of Bettors, a sports betting show for you to become more data-driven. Brad Kronthal and Spencer Kronthal here. We're of Alloy Sports betting research app for you to become more data-driven and help you win some bets. Spencer, how you doing after a fun and crazy Thanksgiving weekend?
Well, I'm feeling full, first of all. Had a lot of great food this past weekend, spending it with family. But on the betting side of things, I got crushed. There's no other way around it. I had a tough week, but we'll look to even that out as we go forward.
Yeah, it was a tough week, and I think a few live bets of mine, put me in the positive. So I came out net positive. But a lot of the games that we thought would hit, not didn't necessarily hit, and some of the games that were hitting in our strategies that we were like, I'm not so sure about this one because they might have been bad teams and the spread was so low. It's just a tough bet. They came out on top, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But it was certainly a fun Thanksgiving weekend, especially being here where I am in Maryland. Mobile betting launched the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so everyone, it seemed, at Thanksgiving was getting in on the betting action, watching all the games, and that really was a blast. Getting on all the apps and throwing down some bets, using the free bets, and then hitting on a few of them. Thanksgiving, I won everything that day, so at least it started off as a good weekend.
Absolutely. Things took a turn for the worse for me on Sunday. But Thanksgiving Day actually went 1-1.
All right, well, since we're here already, let's get into it. Let's talk about our picks from last week, and we will begin, Spencer. Let's just get it over with, right? I think let's begin with you.
Let's not. So that works for me. We'll get it out of the way quick. I went 1-1 on Thursday, followed by a tough 0-4 slate on Sunday. I had the Giants be my only cover with New England, Atlanta, Houston, Tennessee, and Chicago all failing to do so. On the year, I'm now 23-21 after this 1-5.
Yeah, I took it off for you quickly.
Thank you. That is much needed to say the least. So we'll move on to you now.
All right, yes. So it was an interesting weekend. Started out really good. Had the Giants and had the Lions as well on Thanksgiving, though I don't think I tracked it. Let's see. Did I track the Lions? Oh, there it is. I'm looking at the wrong page. Here we are. So had the Lions, had the Giants, and they both hit. So started off really nice. Thought Atlanta would really be a nice bet. Weather in Washington really caused that one to be an issue. I actually lost a little parlay there again. Don't stress to play parlays, but did throw $3 on a 5-player prop parlay, and Curtis Samuel, I had the over of 31.5 receiving yards. I digress. He didn't have one receiving yard, and everyone else hit, of course. So that's why I don't play parlays. Tennessee, felt really good about that one, and that was probably my favorite bet of the week going in, and that didn't hit. And Seattle did not hit as well. But Arizona, I come back to. They had a 3-point or 2.5-point spread around kickoff time. I didn't feel very confident in that game, so I wanted to play it out and watch a little, see the pattern of the game, see how the guys look, see how Kyler looked in the offense. And I hopped in the second quarter. I think Arizona was trailing by 4 at the time, and I got a 3.5-point spread for the first half. So I saw the 3.5-point line, knowing that the game spread was 3. I felt really good that Arizona was going to score and keep it within that 3-point range at halftime, basically asking for half of that with a full game spread. So hopped in on that. The odds are at plus 170, so a ton of value there. Threw 20 down, came out, netting $34, and that really saved me and put me in the net positive. So on the year, I'm doing. We can do this in real time, and as I'll take you through the bet stamp page, we can see in real time what I am. So I don't think these updated, but 29-24. Got one pending here, a few more to go, but came out net positive, and I'm okay with that for this weekend, which was tough. So happy to move on to week 13. And again, you had a bit of a rougher week, and I don't blame you. A lot of the bets we felt good about didn't really hit. And I don't blame you at all for not placing the bets that did hit that our systems were telling us to, because I know we had some intersection there with games that we thought would cover. So, looking to move onward and upward, as they say.
Absolutely.
So going back to last week, though, do you have a favorite moment from the weekend of week 12? So hopefully a positive moment.
Yeah. So, one thing that I was pretty excited about this past week was the return of the Jets offense. This obviously coincided with Mike White being named the starter, but 131 points on the board. Mike White, flawless performance, 3 touchdowns, 300 yards passing. I think Garrett Wilson's happy. Elijah Moore, welcome back to the team, basically. Everyone seems to be happy in New York now, probably except Zach Wilson. But Mike White, defense is humming. The running game looks to be getting a little bit more back on track. 158 yards this past week. The Jets picking up right where they left off before, Zach Wilson kind of put them into a bad spot.
I mean, let's hold off a little bit here. I mean, I'm definitely impressed with White. Love his swagger, love his bravado. They beat the Bears in a crappy weather game. Not ready to say that the Jets are making a playoff run here with this team, but it was definitely a positive from getting, what did they get, 2 yards of the second half last week under Zach Wilson. White throwing for over 300 yards in a pretty ugly game weather-wise is encouraging. And I agree with you, seeing that Carter and getting Ty Johnson involved in the run game. They are missing Breece Hall. So seeing that getting going in the run game and then the run passing game was encouraging. My favorite, well, not my favorite moment because it made me lose a bet, but my oh wow moment came in the Raiders Seahawks game. Josh Jacobs. I think I've touched on him early in the year, but he set a Raiders single game rushing record. He had 229 rushing yards. He had 74 receiving yards. He had 2 touchdowns, and including the burst breakaway touchdown run in overtime to seal the game for the Raiders. Lost me a bet. I also had Seattle in a teaser that brought them all the way down to like 4.5 plus 4.5. So they crushed me. Josh Jacobs single-handedly did that. So I'm going to give credit where credit's due. He beat me on those bets single-handedly. And what an incredible game for him. The Raiders look like idiots for not picking up his fifth-year option. He's having a great year. And he's going to get some money this offseason.
Absolutely. 300 yards in one game. Nothing to laugh about there.
Yeah, so going back to our strategies of last week, our system that really hit was our bounce back strategy. This was an alloy forecast. We published it 2 weeks ago, and this is looking at teams with a good quarterback, offensive line, and coming off a loss, looking to bounce back. So this past week, so exactly what goes in that. If you're in our Alloy Pro, it's looking at teams with quarterbacks with a better passer rating than their opponent, and an offensive line giving up fewer sacks per game than their opponent. And then the filter is consecutive losses greater than or equal to 1. So looking for teams to bounce back when they have a good quarterback, then better quarterback than their opponent, and an offensive line that they're looking to gel and really come together as a group and put a W on the board after a loss. So this strategy went 3-0 last week. It had the Panthers, it had the Jaguars, and it had Pittsburgh. All ATS. And not only did they all cover, but they all won straight up on the money line. So underdogs, but upset underdogs. This bounce back strategy had it all last week. And just to give you the further proof of its success, let's pull it up. It's hitting at over 60% over the past 3 years. Let's just run it for fun. I'm on the app right now. So yeah, it's hitting at 68% since 2020, 43-20 record, 30.3% return on investment for close underdogs. And when you run through it, here I'll hold up my screen, like you'll see it is just trending up and up and up since September of 2020. If you were to bet every game that fit this strategy since 2020, you would have net $381 for $20 a game unit size. Obviously, you make that 100, you're in the $3,000 range. So this is a really up and coming strategy. If you haven't looked at it yet, check it out on our content section. It's called the bounce back strategy, and it is absolutely crushing it for close underdogs. And there is one right now that it likes for next week, but it's basically a pick 'em. I'll tell you, it's looking at Detroit +1 at home against the Jaguars +1. So if you like that line, maybe get in on the money line. One's not a ton of value there, but I've already seen that line go back and forth between who's the favorite. So definitely check out the bounce back strategy. And with that, I think it brings us to our picks, our forecast picks for this upcoming week. Spencer, any strategies, any systems, any picks that you like for week 13?
I think I'm going to go with one of our early strategies. I'm going to go with the road grader this week. My drive extender strategy, I've been tailing it a lot this year, only has one game, and it's Jacksonville to cover at Detroit. So I'm going to go with road grader, which has that game in addition to a few more. I got Tennessee covering at Philadelphia, about 5.5 point spread right now in the consensus. Pittsburgh to cover at Atlanta. Indy at Dallas +10, and finally New Orleans +3.5 at Tampa Bay. So looking to bounce back by getting back to basics with our road grader strategy.
Yeah, awesome. And I think there's a few things here to take away. I think one really important betting strategy, and we've done some with our research, is using the teaser option. So if you see Tennessee at 5.5, if you want to get if there's a couple games in the underdog range that you really like, maybe you want to give them a few extra points, it's worth it to throw in a teaser there. That's what I did on Thanksgiving with the Giants and Lions. Didn't need the extra points, but it gave me that extra bit of cushion. It is a parlay bet, so you need to be aware of that. If you throw two or more in, they all have to hit. But if you did a 7 point teaser, with Tennessee and then New Orleans, you're getting 10.5 points. Tennessee, you're getting 12.5 points. The odds go down a bit, but as you increase more teams, then they shift up like any parlay. So it's an interesting way to get involved. If there's a few games you like, but you want to add a few points and still get the value for those. And we've seen, I think it was the road grader, Spencer, that we were talking with one of our internal guys about. He was saying if you were to tease all these games, 84% of them would have hit if you teased them up. Obviously, they all need to hit for it to be a parlay, but having 84% of games from 60 is still a dramatic increase and something to be cognizant of. For my bets this week, it's kind of interesting. So I already have I like Kansas City -2.5 at Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati, it might be another play where I tease them and give them, 6-7 points, because I'll find that sweet spot in the middle of 3 and 6 to 7 points there, and tease that up. But let's start straight up. I like the Kansas City Chiefs in that game. I also like New England. A lot of my strategies are pointing to New England. That spread is going down right now. So our defensive pressure strategy, looking at defense, obviously likes New England. It's at +5 here. I've already seen that go down to +4.5. It started at +5.5 at some books. So New England at +5 I like. Tennessee as well, 5.5 at Philly. And then the Giants. Right now they're +2.5. I'm going to get in on that. I see that line going down some places already to 1.5, which is a huge jump in just a day, to go down a full point. The Giants at home against Washington, I think that the Commanders are due for some regression here. The defensive pressure strategy for close underdogs is hitting at 59%, and I want to hop in on that, and that's for this season only. And I think there's a few other games that I might wait on. New Orleans, like you said, there's a new strategy I built for this week. It's hitting at 64%. It's 72, 39, and 2. It incorporates some rushing, some defense, coming off a loss. New Orleans is a team I'm probably going to look to tease. I just don't love, Andy Dalton with such a short line. Give him a few more, maybe they cover it, but those are my favorite bets at this point in the week.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Letting the data talk, looking to ride out this week and keep things rolling moving forward.
Yeah, and again, using the data to your advantage is just, there's so many ways to do it. So like I said last week, you can go in outright, just bet the game's ATS, don't do a parlay. If you're hitting at 60% over the past couple years, this year, you feel confident that you're going to come out, in the green. And that's all that's important, right? You're betting and you're winning money. That's how we feel we can come in and help with the Alloy platform. that will let you win money. But then there's also other options. If you're just not feeling that confident in a Carolina to win or a Pittsburgh to win and cover with such short odds, maybe you bet it live. Maybe you see them go down a bit and they have the ball and they have short odds to cover a bigger spread than they would. You see where they were supposed to be before the game and you get in on the action like I did with Arizona with plus 170 at 3.5 odds and you cover that bet. Or you do a teaser where there's a game you like, the data backs it up, but you want to give yourself some extra room. There's a few different ways to get in the action that are creative, and that gives yourself a better chance to win. That's all based off the data.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So, want to hear your thoughts, your picks. Share it with us at Band of Bettors, at Alloy Sports. Brad and Spencer Kronthal here. We are excited for an exciting Week 13 in the NFL. We'll be here all week, so tracking the strategies and the games to bet. So, we want to know what you're betting on as well. Let us know at Band of Bettors, at Alloy Sports, and we'll see you next week.